potential violations of the consumer protection laws insofar as deceptive and misleading practices may have occurred. And those investigations will be, those letters will be part of our record without objection. Last week was the busiest, or certainly one of the busiest, of our travel weekends, 18 million people in the air, and many of them frustrated and infuriated, not just by delays and cancellations, some of them inevitable, but by fees that seem to be sky high with no prospect of landing. In fact, they feel, with more than understandable justification, that they are piggy banks to be shaken down by these skyrocketing fees that seem to have no connection to any costs that the airlines incur. In fact, our investigation shows they have no connection to actual costs that the airlines are bearing. Fee revenue, in fact, is skyrocketing, and these consumers feel it. Passengers now are forced to pay extra for almost everything. If you want to reserve a seat, there's a fee for that. If you want to change or cancel your reservation, there's a fee for that. If you want to travel with a bag, there's a fee for that, too. The 5 airlines here today generated $25.3 billion in checked bag fees over the past 6 years. In fact, airlines have forced parents to choose between sitting apart from their minor children and paying an extra fee. We passed a law last May prohibiting those kinds of fees. The comment period closed in May, and the DOT has yet to issue a final rule that implements that new law. But in the meantime, the airlines should have respected the intent of Congress, eliminating it. And frankly, the Department of Transportation ought to issue that final rule right now. Get it done. No more delay. Now, I know the airlines say that they offer lower fares and more choices. But the fact of the matter is that those lower fares, the so-called economy class, are basically for people who travel with no more than the shirt on their back and the underwear and socks they have on. And the fees that they inevitably occur when they have to carry a bag on are often confused, complicated, and inconsistent. And they are concealed in a way that defeat efforts to do comparison shopping, which is the essence of competition. Airlines often conceal these fees, making that kind of comparison shopping difficult, if not impossible, and more travelers are searching for tickets without knowing what the final price will be until they pay it. And some are surprised by concealed charges at the moment they are about to board at the gate. Airlines call the practice of separately charging for every little thing unbundling. Frustrated passengers have a different word for it. They call it junk. Sometimes they use another 4-letter word. And understandably, they feel that sense of frustration and anger. For the past year, our subcommittee, the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation, has been investigating how 5 of the most prominent airlines have used these fees to change the way Americans travel. American, Delta, and United are together responsible for a majority of all domestic air travel. I think it's about 60%. With Southwest, that figure is close to 70%. And Frontier and Spirit, while smaller, have pioneered new methods of charging their customers. Some of their latest practices, like targeting individual passengers with pricing algorithms, are likely spreading to other airlines, which is the pattern in the industry. The smaller airlines experiment with a new tactic, and it's then mimicked or adopted by the larger ones. Our investigation found that in 2023 alone, American, Delta, United, Frontier, and Spirit collected more than $3 billion in seat fees, only seat fees. That's not airfare. That's just fees for booking a specific seat in advance or selecting a slightly better seat. And that's an increase of 50% from 2018, just 6 years ago. In fact, we found that over the past 6 years, the 5 airlines we investigated made more than $12.4 million from the many seat fees that they charge. Now, I know there are going to be claims in your testimony of rising costs, but we found that for checked bags, the fees are unconnected to any costs in transporting them. And it's obvious that assigning paid seats is pure profit. You don't have to create new seats on a specific flight when you charge more. We obtained internal documents showing that Frontier paid $10 to its gate agents every time you identify or they identify a passenger whose free personal item is large enough to qualify as a carry-on bag, requiring a fee up to $99. In other words, a bounty bag program, $10, an incentive payment, so that the consumer would pay up to $99 to carry on a bag. I call it a bounty bag program, and Spirit has one too. When we asked Frontier about this program, they accuse customers who don't pay for carry-on bags of, quote, stealing from the airline. It's not surprising, given that Frontier has estimated this program would generate $40 million in extra revenue in just its first year. This hostile view of their customers certainly leaves no doubt why complaints are surging. Our investigation also found that airlines benefit by making information about the fees they charge obscure and confusing. One airline even admitted in our investigation that they hide seat fees from customers until late in the booking process, because doing so leads to more customers completing their purchase. Keeping this information hidden from customers is working out very well for the airlines, not so much the customers. Last year, seat fees accounted for $1.3 billion in revenue for United, even more than the $1.2 billion they earned from charging for bags. Travelers are quite simply fed up with hidden sky-high fees, and they are right to worry about the future. Our investigation found that airlines are exploring new ways to charge customized fees to each passenger using algorithms and maybe even AI. This type of consumer-specific pricing will make it much easier for airlines to discriminate against particular passengers and to raise fares and fees for those airlines that the consumers are suspected to be able to pay more. Once again, the airlines are racing to put profits above all else. Let me conclude by talking a little bit about what has to be done. First of all, more must be done to address the rising costs of air travel and to empower passengers, beginning with greater transparency. The billions of dollars that airlines make in seat fees and other unreported fees must be disclosed to the public. The Department of Transportation must swiftly implement Congress's mandate that parents be allowed to sit next to their children without extra fees attached. There's no excuse for additional delay. It ought to be done by the end of this year. We have to pass legislation including the Airline Passenger Bill of Rights and the Fair Fees Act, which the airline industry has spent millions to lobby against. And on the issue of transparency, I want to know from these witnesses why they are in court blocking a bill that was passed by Congress, a law that we approved that requires greater transparency. The Fifth Circuit, United States Court, has blocked implementation because of that lawsuit brought by your airline companies. If you're in favor of transparency, why go to court blocking a transparency law? It makes no sense. And I hope that our witnesses will address those efforts and, in fact, commit to lift the lawsuit's injunction. We also have to continue to investigate the deceptive and potentially illegal conduct that our investigation has revealed, and I hope that we'll have a prompt response from the Secretaries of Treasury and Transportation to my request for investigation. Finally, at the root of the problem is a lack of competition. I've opposed some of these consolidations, the acquisitions and mergers that have occurred. Airlines charge these fees because they can. Consolidation has enabled 4 airlines to control nearly 70% of the market. Major carriers march in lockstep on these fees. And we need a review of whether something has to be done to provide for more competition among airlines in this industry. So thank you to the witnesses for being here today. Frankly, I hope that your responses to our questions will be comprehensive and forthright, because each of your airlines, unfortunately, engaged in some measure of stonewalling our investigation. And I hope that you understand the public deserves answers, and I hope that you will provide them. Thank you, and I'll turn to Senator Marshall.
Well, thank you, Chairman Blumenthal. I appreciate you holding this hearing, and once again, your efforts to protect hardworking Americans. I'm going to save my remarks till after I hear the testimony and get on with this hearing. Thank you.
I will now introduce the witnesses and swear them in. We have with us Stephen Johnson of American Airlines. He is the Vice Chair and Chief Strategy Officer there. He's been at the airline since 1995 and currently oversees American Eagle and American Airlines Cargo. Robert Schroeder of Frontier Airlines is the Senior Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer. He is responsible for Frontier's commercial teams, including pricing and revenue management and network planning and marketing. Peter Carter of Delta Airlines is the Chief External Affairs Officer. He oversees international, legal, regulatory, governmental affairs, and he's served as Delta's Chief Legal Officer since 2015. Matthew Klein of Spirit Airlines is the Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer. He oversees the airline's marketing, pricing, and revenue management network, planning and scheduling, and commercial and operational analytics. Andrew Nocella of United Airlines is the Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer. Among his responsibilities, he oversees commercial strategies, product design, revenue management, and Mileage Plus. It is our custom, as you no doubt know, to swear in the witnesses before their testimony. I'd ask you, please, to rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. I'll ask the witnesses now to give their testimony, hopefully within approximately a 5-minute limit. Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Marshall, members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Stephen Johnson, and I'm the Vice Chair and Chief Strategy Officer at American Airlines. I'm pleased to be here today at the request of the subcommittee, and I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. This hearing occurs at a very important time in the airline industry, when we are more focused than ever on gaining the long-term loyalty of our customers. And it has never been more affordable to fly. Over time, overall airfares have gone down, both in inflation-adjusted terms and, since the pandemic, in nominal terms. It's especially noteworthy that flying has become more affordable because that is in stark contrast to the higher prices consumers have been paying on so many other goods and services over the last few years. Also, the airline industry is competing on customer experience in a way that we never have before. Indeed, and the chairman mentioned this, we're proud of the service that American and the industry provided over Thanksgiving, and we look forward to providing our customers with the same level of excellence over the winter holidays and into the new year. Our mission at American is to provide safe, reliable, customer-friendly air travel, supported by a broad range of products and services, options for our customers that they value and use every day. Our ultimate goal is to serve our customers, every one of them, and our business benefits when our customers feel valued, informed, and supported. To that end, American Airlines flies to 350 destinations around the world. That includes 228 airports in the United States, almost half of which are in small communities. Last year, we served 211 million passengers. So it's no surprise that not every passenger wants exactly the same thing. In response, we have very deliberately designed product offerings and pricing to offer choices to our customers so they can decide what is valuable to them. For our most price-sensitive customers, we offer low fares, very low fares, fares that offer air travel at the lowest possible cost. And those fares allow us to compete for those customers' business with airlines that have much lower cost structures than ours. At the same time, other customers expect a wider variety of services, so we offer that too. Our approach maximizes customer choice while offering historically low prices for air travel. Today's hearing topic is about airline ancillary fees. We are proud of the customer-friendly, transparent, and voluntary nature of our fee structure. Any American passenger can fly on any of our flights at any time without paying any fees at all. Also, American customers don't have to pay some of the fees that are the subject of the subcommittee's inquiry. For instance, American does not charge for carrying on a bag or a personal item. We don't charge customers for sitting next to their children or with their families. And we don't charge customers for changing a reservation originating in the United States more than 24 hours in advance of a flight. If passengers do select an ancillary product, we clearly disclose any fees in advance of booking. Our website and app, where the vast majority of our customers book their flights, are clear and easily navigable. That is by design. Everyone wins when our customers know exactly what we are offering and exactly what they are buying. The fact that air travel has become more affordable has democratized flying. More Americans than ever before are able to travel by air. We believe that our strategy for unbundling our products, presenting customers with a wide variety of choices, and offering our customers the lowest possible fares has contributed significantly to that important result. Again, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Schroeder?
Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Marshall, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. My name is Bobby Schroeder, and I am the Senior Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer at Frontier Airlines. Frontier Airlines is an ultra-low fare carrier, or ULFC, that caters to price-sensitive customers and offers unbundled services, enabling customers to pay only for the services they use. This transparent model enables Frontier to keep its base airfares extremely low for the benefit of consumers, 77% lower on average than the legacy carriers and 64% lower even when ancillary fees are included, providing significant benefits for consumers. Every day, Frontier works to make air travel more accessible. In addition to our ultra-low fares and unbundled optional services, we are one of only 4 major U.S. airlines to commit to fee-free family seating and one of 3 acknowledged to significant support of service members and their families as recognized by the Department of Transportation. Frontier's unbundled model has democratized air travel and made flying affordable for millions of families, individuals, and small businesses who might have not otherwise been able to travel. It has also driven competition, prompting other airlines to lower fares and create new cost-effective options. ULFC innovation benefits not only customers, but competition as well, aligning with the intent of the Airline Deregulation Act. It is indisputable that unbundling has lowered the cost of flying for customers. Without unbundling, Frontier could not sustain its ultra-low fares. For example, Frontier's 2022 fare revenue per passenger, excluding optional services, was just $54. And for the first 9 months of 2024, fare revenue per passenger is only $41. Customers who don't need baggage or specific seat assignments aren't forced to pay for them. This ensures affordability and choice for passengers, with more than 70% choosing not to check a bag, more than 80% choosing not to bring a carry-on, and nearly half spending nothing on bags or seat assignments. If Frontier had to include a checked bag or a seat assignment as part of its fare, fares would go up, and certain consumers would either be unable to fly or charged for products and services they may not want or need. By contrast, on a bundled carrier, every customer pays for the true costs of so-called free checked bags, regardless of whether they check a bag or not, albeit with such costs baked into the airfare. As the Department of Justice explained in its complaint against the JetBlue-Spirit merger, for travel on airlines that offer a bundled, all-inclusive price, quote, passengers were forced to pay for these features regardless of how much they used or valued them. The complaint also highlighted the significant benefits of ULFCs on fares for price-sensitive consumers and the significant consumer-friendly innovation in passenger air transportation that ULFCs have brought to the industry. Among other things, the Department of Justice noted the carriers that have unbundled these features, quote, empower cost-conscious travelers to prioritize the aspects of the flying experience they valued the most, and have enabled such carriers to offer low fares that are particularly attractive to cost-conscious travelers who want the least expensive way to get to their destination. Our ancillary fees support the availability of optional services and ensure that customers who don't need these services aren't subsidizing others. Frontier is transparent, clearly disclosing all product, service, and price options throughout the booking process, consistent with DOT regulations. To this point, DOT data shows that complaints about baggage fees are extremely rare, just 1 per 2.5 million passengers. One final topic I would like to address. Much has been made and distorted about Frontier's program to offer customer service agents commissions for certain ancillary products such as gate-checked bags. This program is meant to enhance compliance by passengers with Frontier's carry-on bag policy. This in turn enhances cabin safety and boarding efficiency and ensures that all passengers are treated equally. In sum, Frontier's unbundled services model enables customers to pay only for the ancillary services and products they want or need, and those services and products, as their associated fees, are transparently disclosed along with respective prices to the consumers well before and at the time of ticket purchase. I look forward to our discussion this morning and answering any questions you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Schroeder. Mr. Carter?
Good morning, Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Marshall, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Peter Carter, and I am the Chief External Affairs Officer at Delta Airlines. Delta is a global airlines that each year flies nearly 200 million customers to 275 destinations in over 50 countries with thousands of departures every day. At Delta, our genuine and enduring motivation is to make sure every customer feels welcomed and respected across every point of their journey by providing an elevated and caring experience which is safe, clean, and on time with bags. Delta's commitments to these bedrock principles is one of the reasons why Delta is America's most awarded airline. Our approach to optional products and services is rooted in the fact that we serve a variety of customers who have different needs and who want options in order to make choices when they travel. While we do charge ancillary fees for a limited number of products or services, many of our customers do not pay any ancillary fee whatsoever. For example, all customers are permitted to bring a free carry-on bag and personal item, with no exception, and fewer than 20% of our customers even pay a bag fee. Also, we do not charge to seat families together under any circumstance. Our fare structure, which we do not consider as an ancillary fee, reflects the notion that not all customers travel the same. Our goal remains to provide options and value for every customer, from the student traveling with only a backpack to the family vacationing to Europe for a honeymoon celebration, to the corporate executive. This means customers can tailor their experience by choosing to purchase optional products and services that matter to them. Our commitment to choice is the reason why Delta offers a wide suite of products and services. We believe that allowing customers to choose those services that meet their individual needs provides them an opportunity to forego those services that they do not seek. We have especially focused on premium products because after COVID, there is a growing demand for these products from customers who want more out of their travel experience. We also take our commitment to transparency seriously. We aim to make the booking process seamless and transparent by disclosing key information at various points throughout the booking process and before purchase. There are no hidden fees when you purchase a ticket from Delta Airlines. As a company operating in a competitive market, our ability to compete hinges on the ability to design and execute a business model consistent with market demands. Like other airlines, our costs have risen dramatically over the last several years. For example, Delta has been committed to investing in its people. As a result, our labor costs have naturally increased. This year alone, we made an investment of $500 million in our people in the form of a pay increase. In the last 15 years, Delta frontline employees have received 12 base pay increases, totaling an 85% increase in base pay, which is more than double the rate of inflation. We also paid out $1.4 billion of our 2023 profits as part of our industry-leading profit-sharing program. As costs rise, the cost of providing optional products and services has also increased. Over the years, Delta has continued to innovate and invest in the customer experience across all fare classes. We have led the industry with fast and free Wi-Fi access, which underscores our dedication to the in-flight experience for all our customers. We know our customers value connection and flexibility to spend their time in a way that suits them, and we're proud to offer industry-leading experiences no matter their choice of fare product. Delta is in the customer service business, not the ancillary fee business. Ancillary fee practices that erode the trust and loyalty of our customers are not in our best interests. Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thanks, Mr. Carter. Mr. Klein?
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Marshall, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to appear today. My name is Matt Klein, and I am the Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer for Spirit Airlines. I've been at Spirit for over 8 years and have worked in the airline and travel industry for nearly 30 years. Spirit has been a pioneer in democratizing air travel by providing travelers the most transparent and customer choice-centered experience at the most effective cost. There is no standard way to travel. And as we see with our own guests, these decisions are varied and very personal ones. Some guests want to check a bag. Others want Wi-Fi, premium snacks, or the option to select their seat. A large percentage of our guests want something simpler, basic travel and a personal item at the lowest possible price. Our model ensures that customers only pay for the services they want, not what others want. Optional services, by definition, are not so-called junk fees, as optional services are not required to travel. Indeed, unlike many other industries, airlines already must advertise the complete price, including taxes and fees, of any fare or optional service. What travelers see advertised is what they pay. To be clear, Spirit does not engage in so-called drip pricing. Spirit does not set any price based on an individual's personally identifiable information, and Spirit's goal has always been providing our guests the greatest level of self-customization. Prior to the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978, airfares typically included 1 or 2 checked bags and perhaps a carry-on bag if room permitted, whether the passenger wanted them or not. Flying was very expensive and few people could take advantage of it. The Airline Deregulation Act permitted Spirit to offer passengers the opportunity to fly for a lot less money by separately purchasing only what the passenger wanted for a trip. Spirit originally called these low fares bear fares, and the public loved them. Today, virtually everyone who flies knows how to book a ticket online, either directly or on an airline website app or through an online travel agent. The general public absolutely knows they have choices in terms of what service options are available to them. Spirit can confidently say that the American public is smart. In some months, Spirit can have over 40% of its guests travel without a checked bag, carry-on bag, or pre-selected seat. The concept of the unbundled base fare quickly became so popular that all 3 legacy airlines implemented a basic economy product which mirrors Spirit's basic Go travel option. As referenced in the majority report, Delta was the first to introduce these fares in 2012, specifically on routes operated by Spirit. If the subcommittee wants to investigate industry issues that directly affect what customers pay, here are 3 suggestions. Review hub and slot dominance. Review legacy pricing dominance. Review legacy dominant loyalty and bank co-branded credit card programs. Those areas are by far the most impactful to consumers. By maintaining dominant positions in these 3 areas, legacy carriers can squeeze pricing that would otherwise be unsustainable against low-fare airlines. International and business travel fares also help subsidize temporary low prices that legacy carriers use to compete against low-cost competition. I am pleased that the subcommittee report correctly delves into how legacy carriers generate billions of dollars from loyalty programs and use these programs to capture customers who pay higher fares. If carriers like Spirit cannot thrive and grow, then airfares with or without optional ancillary services will significantly increase for all travelers. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks, Mr. Klein. Mr. Nocella.
Good morning, Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Marshall, and the members of the subcommittee. My name is Andrew Nocella, and I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at United Airlines. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. To begin with, I'd like to take a moment to thank the over 140 million customers who travel to nearly 350 destinations on United each year. I'd also like to recognize our more than 100,000 employees, including 80,000 plus union members who work hard every day to ensure our customers reach their destinations safely. At United, we're proud to connect people and unite the world. Providing customers with choices has been a driving factor as we design new products that meet the range of travel needs and budgets. Our customers who prioritize affordability have the option to choose a lower fare product and in doing so, opt out of paying for additional services they do not need nor want. But we also have customers who seek more services, and they retain the ability to choose the service they value for an incremental fee, like a seat with extra legroom or checked bags. There's a strong customer demand for a diverse array of bookings and service options. In our view, a one-size-fits-all travel model would deny lower-cost options to our customers. For example, our basic economy product is designed to promote affordability by allowing customers to select the lowest airfare and opt out of paying for services they don't intend to use. Consider a student on a limited budget who travels from Chicago to Boston or to visit her parents for the weekend. She may decide that she is able to easily fit her belongings in a backpack and would prefer a lower fare option. A basic economy fare allows that student to take her trip at the lowest possible fare without having to pay more to subsidize services that she does not want. Fees for services like checked baggage or seating should never be a surprise. And no matter what air travel options a customer select, United provides them with transparent, readily accessible pricing information and product descriptions. That information is available at several points during the ticket and booking process, is accessible to all customers through United's website and mobile app, and is provided directly to all third-party sites and travel agencies who book customers on United flights. Fulsome disclosure allow our customers to make informed choices about which products and services they want. For example, on our website and app, our customers will see a pop-up disclosure that compares the services included in a basic economy fare with those included in a standard economy fare before they can actually purchase the basic economy ticket. When pricing our optional services, we take a holistic approach. Aviation is a very complex industry with significant investments in planes, people, and technology that support all aspects of air travel. While we don't ordinarily track the cost for each optional service, we do track many fixed and variable costs incurred by our operation, which continue to increase each year. So in determining our prices, we try to account for the competitive market for air travel and the value to consumers. Providing the most value to consumers is what produces the best result for our business, like any business. I'd like to highlight two examples of United recent investments in customer experience. In 2023, we amended our seating policy to waive the fee for preferred seats when a party includes a child under 12, no matter the fare type. And in 2025, we'll discontinue the fee for in-flight high-speed internet as we transition our fleet to Starlink connectivity. These changes will not maximize United's ancillary revenue, just the opposite. They will reduce those revenues by hundreds of millions of dollars. Indeed, our ancillary revenues from the optional services addressed by the subcommittee inquiry were lower in 2023 than in 2018. These investments will yield a great customer experience, elevate our brand, and thus benefit United's business overall. I'd also like to clear up another very important point about United's pricing. The subcommittee report erroneously concluded that United does not pay federal taxes on seat fees, apparently based on its review of the booking path on our website. In fact, United has always paid the 7.5% transportation tax on all seat fees, but it's not displayed in the booking path because United pays this directly to the Treasury. We at United are proud to provide safe, on-time, affordable air travel options. The federal government is an important partner in that endeavor as the operator of the air traffic control system. And I'd like to say the single most consequential thing anyone can do to improve the experience for our customers is to fully staff the FAA. Thank you again, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nocella. I'll begin the questioning. We're going to have 7-minute rounds, and we're going to try to stick to the 7 minutes and then have a second round if our members want to do so. You know, I'm not going to go into all of the specific statements that you've made. I suspect we're going to be hearing from airline passengers who say they've heard you testify here and their experience has been different. We'll incorporate their versions of their experiences in our next report. But I want to begin with the easy questions because I think you've all made representations about family seating. American Airlines and Frontier do guarantee family seating without an extra fee. Mr. Carter, you just said that Delta charges no fee for family seating. My understanding is that your website says only if you can't obtain seats together, quote, contact reservations, which then says they will strive to put families together, but not necessarily on the flight that they want. Is that correct?
Senator, I appreciate the question. We do everything in our power to seat families together. I think I'm not familiar with the precise language that you're referring to, but I think one of the things that can happen when you're operating an airline and does, if you have a weather event or some other kind of irregular operation that results in a change of an aircraft, you may be in a situation where it's impossible to seat a family together.
Well, let me ask you.
We do everything we can to seat
Because time
families.
is limited, and I apologize for interrupting, does your standard or practice in any way differ from the rule that is hopefully going to be issued by the Department of Transportation?
I don't believe it. I don't believe it does, Senator.
Mr. Johnson, let me ask you the same question. Does your practice differ in any way from the rule or standard that will be set? Because my understanding is that you don't necessarily guarantee the same flight for families wanting to sit together.
I have not compared our practice to the legislation. However, I know that we have a practice of, in virtually every case, allowing families to sit together without an extra charge.
I would appreciate your providing a written follow-up. Let me ask all of you, you know, we've had a lot of commitments this morning to transparency, but you're all in court seeking to block the Department of Transportation's rule in the Enhancing Transparency of Airlines Ancillary Service Fees Act. I apologize for the cumbersome title to the bill, but basically it is pretty simple. It requires airlines to disclose certain important fees like carry-on bags and baggage checks and changing or canceling reservation whenever you show customers price and schedule information. Mr. Carter, you're the chief legal officer at Delta. Will you commit to drop that lawsuit?
Senator, I'm not prepared to make that commitment here today.
Why not?
The DOT is an important partner, and I will tell you that many of the things in that rule we already do at Delta, but I would also say that the rule is overly prescriptive. So it's not so much the spirit of transparency, which we embrace and we execute, but it's more the detail of how it is
it's
that they
prescriptive
want us
because
to.
it tells you what to do. It tells you that you must disclose. That's prescriptive.
We do disclose,
Won't you
Senator.
allow it to take effect?
We do disclose it, Senator, and I can tell you that I'm not prepared to make that commitment here today.
Are any of your airlines willing to make the commitment that you'll drop efforts to block a simple, straightforward disclosure requirement that's now in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals because you have sought an injunction successfully? Mr. Johnson, will American Airlines drop this unfounded legal effort?
No, Senator, we won't.
Will Frontier drop your effort, Mr. Schroeder?
I'm not prepared to make that commitment either.
Mr. Klein?
We're not going to make that commitment.
Mr. Nocella?
We're also not willing to make that
I
commitment
think
today.
that this very simple testimony speaks volumes. Let me go on to ask Spirit and Frontier about the Bounty Bag program. Mr. Mr. Schroeder, isn't it true that Frontier estimated in 2022 that it would earn about $40 million that year in additional fees because you were paying gate attendants $10 per bag if they found that a fee would be charged?
First, I wouldn't characterize it as a bounty program. That's not what it is. And the $40 million that was in a document you're referring to, this program isn't about revenue. This program is about creating a fair and equitable setup for our customers. We are in the business of attracting customers back, and being treated fairly and everybody fairly and equitably is part of doing that, and that's what this program is about.
Well, it treats everyone fairly in the eyes of the gate attendant or agent who is paid when an additional fee is charged. That seems like a bounty. I'll call it an incentive payment as well. But one way or the other, travelers pay more because it's a reward system for charging them more. Is there any kind of disciplinary measure if the gate agents fail to charge fees?
What we do have is, first of all, we have very low complaints, as I've said. In fact, the DOT, in terms of bag complaints overall, around bag fees is 1 in 2.5 million passengers for the industry. As it pertains to what we have in place as well, again, we're about attracting customers back, ensuring that they have a great customer experience. We do have rules in place if a gate agent has a higher level of complaints. We have the ability to remove the incentive program from them.
I'm going to finish my first round of questioning by playing a 7-second, I think it's 7-second video, if we can move that forward. This is at a Frontier Airlines gate.
Your badge is at Badge Airport. It's if you don't know the.
Ma'am,
Here.
the bag fits.
Step up a little side, please. Good to go, sir. You
The
already
bag-
recorded me now. Just step up a little side, sir.
The bag fits, ma'am.
It's not fair. You force it.
I'm not forcing anything.
Yeah,
It fits.
record it for you. Put it in your backpack down. There you go. That's why I
It
need.
fits, thank you.
No, you gotta step up a little side. You're not boarding the flight.
Ma'am, it clearly fits.
Sir, can you step up a little side? You're making the line waiting.
I'll just close by saying, the frustration in that passenger's voice is felt every day by countless passengers arriving at the gate with basically no choice. Their flight is leaving in minutes. They have no appeal. And it's the gate agent, whether it's that kind of fee or another, who is the final arbiter. Senator Marshall.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned in your opening remarks that there seems to be a lack of fair competition among the airlines, and I want to focus on the incestuous relationship between the legacy airlines and the credit card industry, where there's also a lack of competition. I'll start with United Airlines. Mr. Nocella, how much money did you all gross? How much did United gross from your rewards program last year?
From the entire awards program, I didn't prepare that number for today, but
Well, I'll give it to you. It's over $3 billion. Mr. Johnson from American Airlines, how much did you all gross from your rewards program?
In 2023, Senator, about $5 billion.
$5 billion is correct. I want to make sure that I understand this and the American public understands how these reward programs work, and I'll stick with United Airlines and American as well. So, Mr. Johnson, American Airlines, do you all focus, are you the bank in this, or do you have a bank? Which bank do you use?
Senator, thanks very much for the question, and thanks for bringing up the topic. We have two really good partner banks, Barclays and Citi, who and a great partner in MasterCard.
Great, great. And Mr. Nocella, United, are you all the bank, or do you have a bank relationship?
Bank, Senator, we use JP Morgan Chase, and we partner with Visa.
Okay, so one of your customers has your credit card, United Airlines credit card, American Airlines credit card. They go to the retailer and they use your credit card. Do you have any idea how much the retailer is being charged for that swipe fee? either American Airlines or United?
I do not.
So it's over, it's around 3%. It's 7 times more than what folks get charged in the European Union. And now, do you all you make $3 billion, $5 million off of this? Is this a kickback from the swipe fee, or did the banks give you money in addition to that? How does that part of this work, Mr. Nocella?
Well, Senator, we don't make $3 billion off of it. We take in $3 billion in revenue, but there are costs associated with transporting the passengers. So in this case, the passenger spends money, they earn miles, and they later redeem those miles for travel on United Airlines.
Okay, I'm still confused. So you gross $3 billion from this. So that's not cash?
We take in $3 billion in revenue. It doesn't represent the profit.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay.
So you take in $3 billion. Is that a kickback from the swipe fee, or is the bank giving you extra money in order to entice people with the voodoo miles that you're giving them?
It's neither a kickback, and they're not voodoo miles. The miles are used to travel all over the world.
So you just come up with a percentage fee that you're going to get in order to have this relationship with them?
Senator, we have a longstanding relationship with J.P. Morgan Chase on this, and it's a contractual relationship that governs how miles are awarded to passengers and what J.P. Morgan Chase pays to United Airlines to do that. And then we travel those passengers all over the world, wherever they'd like to go with those miles.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, American Airlines, is it a rebate? Is it a kickback? How do you get money back from this relationship?
Senator, maybe let me help you by framing the question a little bit.
I don't need the question reframed. I think I asked it very simply.
Well, virtually, credit card use in the United States is ubiquitous. A huge percentage of personal consumption expenditures are made by credit cards. Almost, a huge majority of the credit cards in the United States are associated with a rewards program. The rewards programs that we're talking about here are like those. We're extremely proud of the benefits that we provide to our customers who choose to hold the American Airlines credit card. They are very excited about and find great value in those benefits.
But I just have to stop and interrupt you so you're not going to answer my question. But what I hear from customers is that there's a constant change, and they were promised one thing on this rewards, and they're being given another, that there's a constant change going on with your rewards program, and no one can seem to understand it. Mr. Klein, I want to come to you. You've kind of opened this door from Spirit Airlines. How do these legacy airlines use this credit card system to box you out and to maximize their monopoly?
Thank you for the question, Senator Marshall. What ends up happening is if you look at the operating statements, financial statements of any of the legacy carriers, you'll see that the remuneration they receive from their banks on these programs is more than their actual operating profit in any given year. They use these programs very effectively to compete. And what they end up doing then is be able to basically operate their airlines at losses, and then they make their profit off of these relationships. It affects competition, and it all starts really from the way they dominate their hubs, and they control all the real estate in the hubs. And because they can do that, then they have such large dominance with the passenger base there, the public that's there. And then that's basically how the programs work. It's a circle, and I think they compete very effectively by using the rules of these games this way, and that's how it affects competition.
So I want to emphasize one thing that you said and come back to that. And you said that these legacy airlines operate at a loss, but they use the profits from the credit card programs to really fund their stockholders. Did I understand that right?
Yes, in fact, just a couple weeks ago, Delta at their investor day plainly laid out that their operating profit is $5.6 billion, and also proudly announced how they receive over $7 billion from American Express in the same presentation. So I'm not faulting them for doing it, by the way. They're just playing by the rules of the game that are out there today, but they're very effective at doing it.
Right. I want to emphasize that Americans spend about $300 billion annually on these swipe fees. That amounts to over $2,000 per American family as well. I'll start with Mr. Johnston with American Airlines. Your industry is working with the credit card industry to run attack ads on our credit card competition bill. attacking Senator Durbin's and my credit card competition bill. Do you have any idea how much money American Airlines has contributed to that marketing game?
I don't, Senator, but I'd be happy to get back to you with that
Okay,
number.
Mr. Nocella, you've also been a big contributor to that attack ad on this legislation. Any idea how much you all are spending on that?
I'm not aware.
I'm going to tell you all that your industry, working with the credit card industry, spent $80 million. $80 million, way more than a United States Senate campaign cost in Kansas, attacking us on this. Legislation that all it does is increase competition. It's good for consumers. And yeah, I'm just saying that we're over the target here, Mr. Chairman. I think we're absolutely over the target here, that we need more competition, both in the airline industry. I think the credit card scheme is a big part of this, and I hope that we kind of open up the doors to that part of your investigation as well. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Senator Marshall. Senator Hassan.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you and the ranking member and Senator Marshall in his stead for this hearing. And thanks to all of you for coming today to have this hearing. I want to follow up on a line of questioning that Senator Blumenthal started concerning fee-free family seating. Obviously, this upcoming holiday season, millions of Americans are going to travel across the country and around the world on your airlines. Some airlines do, in fact, guarantee that children can sit next to their parent at no additional cost as long as their tickets are booked on the same reservation. And according to the Department of Transportation's tracker, both American Airlines and Frontier Airlines meet their standard for what that guarantee should mean. However, the Department of Transportation tracker tells us that Delta, United, and Spirit do not meet their standards. And if anybody wants to check that, it's right here. So I'm going to just start with you, Mr. Carter. Can you explain your family seating policy, and will you guarantee that parents can sit with their children without having to pay extra?
Senator, thank you for the question. I think you are specifically referring to the DOT dashboard.
That's right.
And you're correct that we declined to provide the check. And we thought it was important, not because we don't do everything we can every day. Our people are amazing at seating families together, and we never charge to seat families together, so that's important.
So how come you won't make the guarantee then, according to the DOT standards that include some exceptions?
Yeah, Senator, because the guarantee was so unconditional in our view that we thought it was really an unfair thing for us to do, because consumers, if they look at that dashboard, will rely on that. What's more important is not whether or not we have an X on that dashboard, but what we do each and every day. And I assure you that at the airports, our res centers, each and every day, they are accommodating families to sit together.
Well, I am sure they are, but for those of us who travel a lot, and everybody up here does, we witness on a daily basis on airlines families having to ask people to switch seats so that they can sit with their kids, and passengers are usually quite accommodating. But American and Frontier have both guaranteed and meet the DOT standards. Your airline does not. Mr. Klein, how about yours?
Thank you for the question, Senator. So we do also on the dashboard you're referencing, we do not have the green check marks on there. I would echo what my colleague just said over here, which is we do everything in our power to make sure families can sit together. We do abide by the spirit of all of those check boxes, so to speak, and we felt that we would not necessarily be able to always 100% guarantee everything on there. We felt it'd be disingenuous to try to get green check marks on something that we're already accommodating, and we're afraid that we would be in violation by trying to say always.
Well, let me be clear that the comment period on the rule that DOT is putting into place in response to legislation from this body, from Congress, that rule, I hope, is going to be finalized, and then you guys are going to have to follow it. So you might want to do what Frontier and American are doing already, which is figure out how you're going to follow a rule that the vast majority of Americans would like to be able to rely on. Trust me when I say that when you are a busy family, the last thing you want to know or want to wonder about as you're trying to herd your family onto a plane is to figure out whether you're going to have to argue or look at an interpretation of a rule with an airline agent or a flight attendant. Other airlines are figuring out how to do this. And for much of the history of flying in this country, airlines did this. So I think you're going to need to figure out how to comply with the rule. Mr. Nacella.
Thank you, Senator. First of all, I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, so this is very important to me, and my kids don't want to sit alone. I think United goes above and beyond what that rule says. And, first of all, I'll say we implemented new technology recently where if the seat adjacent is not available, our computer continues to look at seats as they become available on the aircraft as you get closer to departure. So even if it's not available on the day you make the purchase for your ticket, we continue to look, and again, we do that without a fee. We, too, have an issue with the absolute guarantee that seemed to have a lot of exceptions to it that I think could lead a consumer to the wrong conclusion.
So here's the thing. I'm going to move on to a different topic, but when the consumer goes to the dashboard, it explains very carefully, right on that page, this is a printout of it, what the exceptions are. So on the one hand, you're all telling me how smart American consumers are, and they are, and on the other hand, you're saying they're not smart enough to understand this dashboard. I think you guys should really focus on complying with the rule. Now, let me move on to another issue, to Mr. Klein and Mr. Schroeder. As you know, airlines are required to clearly advertise the prices for tickets and to clearly list all mandatory ticket fees. These transparency requirements enable customers to understand what options are best for them and to make informed decisions. So according to this subcommittee's investigative report, your two airlines charge some fees to customers that are not immediately apparent. For example, according to the report, your airlines do not initially tell a customer the cost of the additional fees that they could face. Instead, you require that a customer first provide you with their personal information, such as their zip code, before revealing the total cost of their bag and seat fees. And I know, Mr. Klein, you say that you're not using the personal information to set the price, but it begs the question, why are you asking for the personal information first? So I'll start with Mr. Schroeder and then move on to Mr. Klein, but could you please explain your fee transparency policy, and will you commit to transparently listing all possible fees for customers up front so that they can make informed flying decisions?
Thank you, Senator. Today, we take transparency and customer experience very seriously. We actually do have the ability on the flight availability page, so when you do make a search, there is a link that allows you to go and see quite a few of the fees that exist on that.
All of the fees or quite a few of the fees?
All except for seat fees on it. And so you can get your bag fee right there. You can find out any of the other fees that exist as well.
Except for the seat, why not the seat fees?
It's something that just we would have to go and build. We haven't done yet, but frankly, it's.
Well, if your commitment is to transparency, I suggest you do it. Mr. Klein?
Yeah, so our booking path has been in place for quite some time now. And in fact, we used to collect a little bit less information during COVID-19 at the request of Department of Homeland Security for COVID tracking. We actually added some more information on that page. But I must say, however, we have, and I let the subcommittee know over the summer during our interview that we are always reviewing our booking paths. In fact, for 3 of our 4 travel options, everything is now straight and up front. And the only reason why we haven't reviewed that 4th path, which is what you're referencing right now, is because it's going to be a little technical, but right now we're in a freeze on some of our development right now until we get into the new year. And a part of this is all part of our transformation that we're doing at Spirit Airlines right now. We value guest experience. We value transparency. That is exactly what we want. And we are reviewing that, and we expect to be making some adjustments to that early next year.
Well, I appreciate that, and I also appreciate that I'm over time, but I'm going to just suggest that in a world in which consumers rightly wonder why large companies are collecting their personal information, there is reason for consumers to worry that their prices are being set according to their zip code or according to an algorithm that estimates, because of their personal information, how much they could pay. Now, you're shaking your head, Mr. Schroeder, and I'm sure, Mr. Klein, you're going to tell us that that's not the case, and I hope it's not. But that's why transparency is so important, and it is hard to listen to people talk about their commitment to transparency and then have them give you a bunch of different reasons why they can't be transparent. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Senator Hassan. Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Can we just come back to this bounty issue, Mr. Schroeder, Mr. Klein? Because I have to say I didn't understand your answers. I thought you said to the chairman earlier that you did say in your opening statement that there was a lot of misinformation about this out there, Mr. Schroeder, and I thought you said, Mr. Klein, that you don't charge bounties. So can we just clear this up once and for all? We're all here, we're all under oath. So, Mr. Schroeder, let's start with you. Do you charge a bounty? Do you pay employees bounties on carry-on bags to identify them?
Well,
It's a simple, that's a yes or no.
I wouldn't characterize it as a bounty.
Do you charge them, do you pay your employees a fee? Do you incentivize them to go pick out bags from people getting on planes and kick them off the flight? Just yes or no?
We charge them an incentive.
Okay, that's a yes. Mr. Klein?
We do not, Senator Hawley.
You don't pay your employees to do that?
We have previously, sir, but we actually suspended that on September 30th of this year. And now in order to be able to treat all of our guests fairly and equitably, we've actually just put more staff and supervisors out at the gate area, and they're the ones that are still making sure that everyone's treated fairly and equitably, which is the point behind these kinds of programs, but we have removed that program as of September 30th.
Oh, interesting. So let's come back to you, though, Mr. Schroeder. So how much have you paid your gate agents to enforce your carry-on bag policy, to pick people out of the line like the chairman's video showed? I mean, you guys do appreciate that flying on your airlines is a disaster, don't you? I'm slightly amazed by the general attitude of all of you here. Flying on your airlines is horrible. It's a terrible experience. I mean, I say this as a father of 3 young children, but I can't tell you, nobody enjoys flying on your airlines. It's a disaster. You charge people fees that they know nothing about. You harass them to death. I'll never forget, Mr. Johnson, during COVID when an attendant on your airline threatened my wife because our then 5-year-old son, his mask had slipped. This is back when we all had to wear those ridiculous masks. His mask had slipped below his nose. This flight attendant came up to my wife and said if she didn't keep that mask over his nose at all points on this 4-hour flight, she would personally see that my wife was banned from flying. This has happened over and over to families. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And your attitude here today seems to be, well, devil may care. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, I think we are going to do something about it. So how much have you paid people to pull out customers who are in line with a bag that's 2 centimeters too big, Mr. Schroeder?
Well, we recognize this is a hard job, and so therefore we incentivize them to do that.
How much?
It's $10 per bag.
Wow, $10 per bag. And I think, Mr. Klein, you and Mr. Schroeder, your airlines cumulatively have spent $26 million paying gate agents between 2022 and 2023 to catch passengers whose bags are a little bit too big. $26 million. I mean, if people want to know why it's such a terrible experience to fly, this is news for them today. Your airlines are paying millions of dollars to your employees to harass people who've already paid. They're there in line because they've already paid. It's unbelievable. By the way, let me just ask you this while I have you here. Why is it that you charge different people different fees for carry-on bags? Why is that, Mr. Klein? Why isn't it just a flat fee? Why is it that I might get charged one fee, but my wife might get charged a different fee? Why is that?
So overall, our job is to generate the most revenue we can so we can be profitable as an airline. If we're not profitable well, actually we have costs, and there's costs out there, and we have to make sure that we're above the cost line in order to make sure that we can run a profitable entity.
Yeah,
and be able
I got
to
it.
grow.
No, I got it. I got it.
And
money's the answer. So last year, your carry-on bag fees ranged between $15 and $99. That's extraordinary. One person might pay 15, somebody else might pay 99. How do you determine it? Is it based on personal characteristics?
It's
you charge
never
women more?
It's never based on personal characteristics.
You charge minors more?
We do not, sir.
What, just people who are suckers? I mean, how do you do it?
Well, there is a cost to carry any kind of bag.
Yeah, but
So
why do
some
you
of the-
charge some people more? I understand the cost, and you made clear money's your bottom line. I get that, but why is it that you're charging some people what, triple, quadruple the amount?
Well, the length of the flight should matter in this as well. So
Yeah, but that's not the data. The data shows is we're talking about the same people on the same flight might get charged radically different prices for a one carry-on bag. You do the same thing for check bags. Why is that?
Right, so just for the record, the $99 charge has been reduced to $79
Oh,
as a
that's a lot
maximum.
better.
And what ends up happening here is we want to make sure that we can get the best price to the best people at the right time.
The best people? Who would they be?
Sorry, let me rephrase. The right price.
Are those the people who, what? I mean, no, explain it to me. I'm interested. Who are the best people?
Well, that was a misstatement, sir. What we're trying to do is get the right price at the right time. And what that also means is making sure that if someone's on a flight that's now filling up, and we have a lot of, as we talked about, unbundled pricing.
And they get screwed? So like if you have the misfortune of having to book your flight at the end because maybe something's been canceled, then you're going to get screwed? Is that what you're telling me? You're not one of the best people.
Are you referencing just fares
I'm just responding to your testimony. I'm listening to you, and you just said as a flight's filling up, you're going to get charged more.
Not always. Sometimes you'll get charged less.
Exactly. Right. Sometimes. Right. But you'll never know, right? That's the beauty of it. It's like Russian roulette. Flying on the airline is,
I would disagree,
you have no
sir.
idea in the world.
I would disagree.
Wait, no idea. You just said it.
It's very transparent.
We'll have it. Listen, there'll be a transcript generated, and I'll send it to you with a bow on it. You can read your own testimony just now. You have no idea what the fee is going to be ever. Mr. Schroeder, what about you? Your airline charges, sometimes it's $0 for a bag checked. Sometimes it's $99 for a bag checked. On a first, sorry, that's carry-on. Excuse me, carry-on. For checked bag, it could go from $0 to $138. Who knows what it's going to be? Why do you vary it so much? Is that fair to the consumer?
So it depends again on routes, and so there's just demand around that.
No, that's not true. We're talking about people on the same flights. Their prices may vary by huge astronomical percentages. Why is that?
Well, that happens on airfare as well, and
it does, and I want to talk about that next.
I'll explain the model and how we think about things. So increasing ancillary historically has brought the fare down, and I brought up earlier that nearly 50% of people are not paying for a bag or a seat. We are providing options that people are deciding whether they want that or not. That is increasing the ability for people to travel
listen,
and travel
my time is limited, and I know the chairman, Senator House, and want to ask more questions. I just want to point out to you that you are charging people for the same thing, one checked bag or one carry-on bag on the same flight. People are paying wildly different prices for it. They have no idea what it's going to be. I think people will be amazed to learn today that if they fly on your airline or yours, Mr. Klein, heck, the guy next to him may be paying $15 for the carry-on bag, and they may be paying $80. Last thing, Mr. Chairman, I know you're indulging me. I'll be really quick on this, but Mr. Schroeder, you just mentioned that you also use this so-called dynamic pricing for seats, for seat fees. Why do you make people enter in their age and their geographic location and their gender before they can even see the cost of a seat? Why is that?
That's been in place since 2014.
Yeah, but why? It's because you're using those personal characteristics to generate the fees?
No, absolutely.
To generate the prices? Well, then why else do you require it? Mr. Klein, you do the same thing. Why is the gender relevant to what the seat is?
This is all information that's needed in order to complete the transaction.
No, it's not. Delta doesn't do it. United doesn't do it. You don't need somebody's gender in order to do it. You use it, clearly. You're using it to generate the prices, right?
We do not, sir.
It's not based on personal characteristics?
Not at all.
You don't use algorithms to set the price of seats?
That's a different question.
So you do use an algorithm, and you do make them enter all their personal information?
What's your definition of algorithm, sir?
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Well, because algorithms are ways for people to be able to come up with calculations, which is a faster way. It's more efficient than a human being doing the same exact work. So, I'm trying to answer your question, sir, in all sincerity, and I don't know how else to answer it.
Thanks, Senator Hawley. We'll begin a second round of questioning, but before we do, I have to say, I hope your takeaway when you go back to your CEOs is that there is bipartisan frustration and even fury about the current practices. They simply won't fly anymore, forgive the pun. They won't fly anymore because they conflict with the reality of what our constituents see in their everyday lives and what they consider fair, including the use of personal information to set fees or fares that differ one to another, same flight, same time, different people, different fees or fares. That's the net result. So let me just go into an area of questioning that I think is on everyone's minds. Is there any connection between these fees and, again, the reality of your costs? That would seem to be the justification for them based on your saying that your costs are increasing. In 2017, Scott Kirby, the CEO of United, testified to Congress that, quote, in 2016 at United, we spent about $1.9 billion carrying checked bags. Now, when this subcommittee asked United to provide an estimate of how much it spent to carry checked bags in the years since, United claimed it couldn't produce an estimate, and they even refused to provide the subcommittee with the number of bags you transport every year. This refusal to provide basic data about the costs of checked bags is common to every one of the airlines here today. Mr. Nacella, wouldn't you agree from Mr. Kirby's previous testimony that United is clearly capable of calculating how much it costs to transport checked bags in 1 year? He testified under oath to a congressional committee. He had a number then. Why can't you provide a number now?
Thank you, Senator. I think it's an interesting question. We just don't routinely look at the direct cost of doing that because it's a large cost allocation that could have multi-answers. So I haven't discussed where that number came from with Mr. Kirby, but I have not seen that report, and I'm unaware of that. I do believe it costs a lot of money to transport luggage. I'll give you an example. We're putting in a new baggage system in Houston. That baggage system alone costs $360 million to install.
Well, if it costs so much money, you must be able to provide a number.
Senator,
This is not just some minor, negligible amount. To the bottom line, it's a big number. Why can't you provide it to the committee?
we routinely do not look at it that way.
You don't look at the number?
We look at our profitability very carefully by flight and by market and by region, but we do not look at our profitability by baggage.
It
We don't have.
defies imagination. It defies common sense. It would defy a business school first day in class to say that United can't provide a number for the total cost of checked bags. Let me ask you the same question, Mr. Johnson. Wouldn't you agree that American is capable of estimating the cost of checked bags? But in fact, it's refused to provide this information to us. We have a 6-year-old estimate of its cost, your airline's cost to transport checked bags. We can show it to you. I think we may have a slide of it. It says that Americans spent about $28 to move each checked bags, and that the cost has risen about 16% since 2016. This is an American Airlines cost estimate, and yet your airline refused to provide this data to us for the most recent year.
Senator, we have not we've not provided it to you because we haven't calculated it. It's not a critical calculation for us to
You
do.
provided this document to us. It's an example. It's simply an example of what you do, and understandably, it's good business practice to know how much you're spending on checked bags. We've heard it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars potentially to other big airlines. You must keep track of it as well.
Senator, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I was aware that we had provided that information for 2018. I was responding to your question about the current year. And we just haven't calculated it. The reason that we haven't calculated it is that we know the cost of bags, of transporting bags, is considerably higher than what we charge for transporting bags. You mentioned a figure in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Our figure is certainly
this
more
is
than
not
that.
kind of an abstract, obtuse question. What we're trying to do here is basically get the total cost the number of bags so we can calculate how much per bag it costs you, and then compare that to what you charge to consumers. Consumers should have a right to that information. I'm just a country lawyer from Connecticut. I'm not a business school graduate, but common sense tells me that's a calculation that ought to be done. And yet, and forgive me for using this word, you've stonewalled this subcommittee by refusing to provide this basic information. Mr. Carter, let me ask you about seat assignment. Delta told the subcommittee that it charges as much as $264.99 for certain economy seat classes. How much does it cost Delta to assign someone to that seat?
Senator, if you're referring to our main cabin fare, we don't charge that person anything for a seat assignment.
Well, how much does how much do you charge then for seat assignments? Your airline told us $264.99. That's incorrect?
No, Senator, I was just trying to respond. I think you may be referring to our basic economy fare class, which is the product for the college student who simply has a backpack, who is, I would say, flexible about having a seat assignment before they travel. And again, they're not charged for that seat assignment. They will receive that seat assignment before they, either at the airport or before they get to the airport. It's just they won't be able to pick that seat when they buy the ticket.
You're saying that for economy class, there's no charge for preferred seating assignment?
For our main cabin, there is no charge.
What
for a
about
seat
extra
assignment
legroom?
at all.
Extra legroom for that college student who is just carrying a backpack?
We don't.
That's the charge, isn't it? $264.99?
Now, Senator, if a customer would like to book in Comfort Plus, that would be the product for somebody who would want additional legroom.
Okay, here's my question. How much does it cost you? We can go back and forth. The intricacies are overwhelming, and you win at that game. But the question is, how much does it cost you when a customer wants extra legroom?
Senator, it's actually a question I cannot answer except to
I
say
think the answer is pretty simple. Zero.
well, that would not be the case. I mean,
Well, that is the case, except maybe the charge for the information technology, which is spread across a zillion different transactions, and it's close to zero. Maybe it's not zero exactly, but to reassign someone to a different seat, cost is zero.
Senator, in fact, we unfortunately, as an airline industry, and Delta certainly has experienced this, we are dealing with the inflation that this country's been
Do you
dealing with.
dispute that almost all of that $264.99 is profit?
Absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely.
Well, that claim really is mind-boggling. I'm going to yield to my colleague, Senator Hassan, because I know she has to go. So I'm not done with my second or third round, but I'll yield to her.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. And look, I just want to start by following up on what Senator Blumenthal was just really trying, I think, to get at. You all run airlines. You have a unique product. It's an airplane that can fly us to where we want to go, we hope, as the most efficient form of travel for relatively long distances. Most Americans cannot afford their own plane. They are dependent on you to be able to go to a family funeral across the country or to a business meeting halfway across the country. When they are planning their trip, they want to be able to look up a fee. How much is the ticket going to cost me? If I need to check a bag, how much will that cost? I need to know that on Monday for my Thursday flight so I can decide whether to pack a bag to check or whether to ship a bag ahead of time, which is sometimes less costly in this market. we want to know what it is going to cost. And what the dialogue that you just engaged in with the chair reflects to me is we're all captives on your airplanes at a certain point. And you just say, you want to pick a seat, we're just going to charge you some random amount more. And what we're trying to get at is why, and how much does it actually cost you? And why can't some of your airlines tell people ahead of time how much this is going to cost? The basic premise of consumer choice is that we get to price different products from competitors, make a comparison, put in our needs, and figure out what the best deal is. And what we have not been able to get at in this hearing with you is why it is so hard for you all to be transparent about the product. Americans don't generally love their flying experience, unless perhaps they're wealthy enough to always fly first class or business. And so it would be good if you guys could be transparent about what you do and why. Now, Mr. Schroeder and Mr. Klein, the reason I decided to ask a second round of questions was because when I asked you both why there was you required people to input personal information before they could get some of the pricing for your products, you both assured me very quickly with a nod of the head or with a verbal answer that you didn't use the personal information for pricing purposes. But then when Senator Hawley asked you a little bit more in depth about that, you both equivocated or essentially said you did. So I would like to understand, Mr. Schroeder, I think it's seating that you said you still have to enter the information. Why do people have to put in personal information before they can get a price on your seating?
So that I stated before, first of all, we do not use personally identifiable information to price at all.
Well, then why are you requiring people to put it in before they can get a price?
This is something that was built in 2014. I was not here for it. However, we look at the ways that we can best set up for customer experience and have a great customer experience. And that starts from the moment people are thinking about travel to the time that they're booking on our website, to the time that they're flying and beyond. And so we continuously review what the best opportunity is.
So are you going to give a different experience to Maggie Hassan, who's 66 years old from Newfields, New Hampshire, than you are from Josh Hawley, who's younger and from Missouri? I mean, what's the deal here? I go on airplanes all the time. You telling me that you're personalizing my experience because of that personal information I gave you?
No, what I was trying to say, and I apologize if it didn't come across this way, I was trying to say that we care about customer experience, and so we review that. This is something that the website hadn't been updated since 2014 around this particular placement
All
on
right,
it.
so, can you commit to me today that your airline will stop requiring people to input personal information before they can get a price? You can ask them all you want, and you can make it optional, or you can give them an incentive for providing their personal information to you. They might get a little bit back for that. But will you commit to ending the practice of requiring people to enter their personal information before they can even understand how much the flight is going to cost them?
I will commit to you, and this is what we always do, that we will review and look at what is the best customer experience for folks, and do look at what that is.
I'm looking at transparency because you said you're committed to it. You said your airline is committed to it.
Yeah.
That is the foundation for a good customer experience. Mr. Klein, do you use, why do people have to input personal information before they can get a full account of the prices that they will need to pay?
Yes, Senator, I appreciate your question. We do not use, as I've stated a number of times, personally identifiable information for any pricing whatsoever. There is one exception. When our members of the military are flying, we do ask them if they're members of the military.
Right.
So when they're flying and when their families fly with them, they get benefits. And we want to make sure that we're aware of that and give them the right price for transparency up front. So we want to make sure that they're aware of that. So that is, to be fair, that is one example where we do use it.
That is, putting aside the members of the military, and I'm very glad that the airline community honors our servicemen and women with preferred boarding and special pricing. That's very appropriate, and I'm glad you all do that. But I am talking about why people have to enter personal information before they can get at some of the prices that you are going to add on to their baseline ticket on your airline. Why?
Right. Well, I mentioned earlier that we have already reconstructed our booking path for 3 of our 4 booking paths, and the 4th booking path, I'd said earlier, we're in the middle of a code freeze right now, meaning we just can't do that development work. We have costed it. We're looking at it for early next year, but we still do need to get some information. For example, are you a member of the military? Things of that nature. We do not use, I'll say it again, we do not use anybody's personal information for any pricing whatsoever at any time.
How about this? I am a member of the military or I'm not a member of the military. I go onto your website. I say, how much is it going to cost to fly from Manchester, New Hampshire to Chicago, Illinois? I don't know whether you guys fly that route, but let's take that route. And you give me an answer. And you say, base price is this for an economy seat. By the way, if you check a bag, it's this much more. And by the way, if you want early seating, it's this much more. You give a base price, and then you say, and by the way, are you a member of the military? Because in that case, we're going to give you a discount, and here it is. Why not tell people the price up front before you ask for personal information? That in an answer to Senator Hawley, you began to argue about, well, maybe there is an algorithm that uses that personal information.
No, I did not say that, Senator.
All right. Well, you did start arguing about the definition of an algorithm.
I did ask what his definition was because algorithms are simply ways to do things faster that humans already do. It's an efficiency. It actually reduces our costs.
Actually, that's not true. But let's get back to my question. Why not just tell people what the price is up front, and then give them an incentive to share the information with you if there's a value to you of that information? Why not do that?
So the public benefits from the way that we've unbundled prices over time. And to your point, there then is additional charges if a customer wants those charges. So I must state, first of all, that the unbundling model has benefited the public.
I get your unbundled model. The question is whether people should be able to understand what the cost of each separately identified prices before they give you personal information that should not impact whether they're going to be charged $15 or $100 for a carry-on.
And somebody can see their bag price straight away. I think you're referencing here pre-reserved seats, because bag prices you can see straight away. It's right on the website. You can actually search to see what your bag prices are before you even search for your flight, if you wish to do that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you for the same commitment that I asked Mr. Schroeder from, which is to commit to making sure that all of the prices that you charge, unbundled prices, can be identified on your website by a consumer before they enter any personal information.
Senator, I can say that we will, like I've just said previously, we are reviewing all of our booking paths. We've changed 3 out of the 4. The fourth one is under review, which is the one that you're referencing. I cannot commit to that today for one reason, is because I don't know if there's other kinds of reasons. We have a lot of regulation that we have to look out for, and I don't know if we're collecting information for other kinds of reasons before we get to that answer. I just can't commit to that today.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for your indulgence. I am considerably over my time. Let me just suggest to all of you that it would have been nice if you had done more homework before you came here. You knew what this hearing was about. You have been engaged with this committee on this investigation, and to hear some of your answers, it's really troubling to me that you don't have this kind of specific information that we would expect you to have. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Hassan. I would agree about the homework, but I'm even more focused on the information that you failed to provide during the course of our year-long investigation, and the refusal to be more forthcoming about, for example, the cost of transporting checked bags. I just want to make clear, on the line of questioning that Senator Hassan was just pursuing, she was focusing on Spirit and Frontier, but the fact is American told us that they require name, gender, date of birth, state and country of residence, email address, and phone number before any consumer can see seat fee prices. That's correct, isn't it, Mr. Johnson?
That's correct, Senator.
And United requires name, gender, and date of birth, correct, Mr. Nocella? That's what United told us.
I believe that's correct.
Spirit, according to what we were told, requires name, gender, date of birth, street address, state and country of residence, zip code, email address, and phone number. Delta requires none of this information, which tells me none of this information is really necessary except for some other purpose. If Delta doesn't need it, the other airlines shouldn't need it either unless they're using it for some purpose unrelated to charging fee prices. What do you say to that point, Mr. Johnson?
Senator, the information that we collect is a combination of information that's required, that we are required to collect by law, by the government, the government's request.
But you collect it before anyone can even see what the prices are going to be, before they even know whether they're interested in making the purchase. You want this information from them. Why?
Correct, Senator. Well, at some point in time during the booking process, we're going to need to collect that information so that we can give it to the government.
If they're a customer, but they haven't made a decision even whether they're interested in your airline.
Exactly. So we have placed the request for the information at the point in the booking path just before seat selection, because some of our
Let me just ask you, will you commit to stop collecting this information?
Senator,
As Delta apparently does not do.
Senator, I'm required by law to collect the information.
You're saying Delta is breaking the law?
You'd have to ask Mr. Carter that question.
Well, no, I don't have to ask him that question because he's not collecting that information.
Okay,
Well,
Senator,
Mr. Carter, are you breaking the law by not requiring this information?
Senator, of course not.
Mr. Nocella, will you commit to stop collecting this information?
Just like my colleague on the far side, I do think the information is required to complete the booking process.
You say you're required by law to collect it.
I'm not saying it's required to complete the booking process.
You know, the danger here is that you're collecting this information without a need for it, obviously for some other purpose, and we all know what that other purpose is. So you can market to them or monetize that information in some other way. Information and data are the coin of the realm in our modern marketing and technology society. And collecting this information is potentially profoundly dangerous if there's no real need for it. Let me
Senator,
just, for the record.
Senator, if I could, I
Yes,
didn't
Mr.
get
Johnson.
a chance to answer your question. We collect the information, and we have thought about collecting it, designing our booking process in a way that where it's most convenient time for the customer to put the information in. And as you said, there are circumstances when the customers don't buy at all and don't want to put the booking information. Ours, we collect the booking information at the point we do because it determines the cost of the seat if the passenger chooses to select a preferred seat. And some of our best customers are entitled to discounts, and the only way we can apply those discounts is to know who they are. That's the only that's the only thing we use the information for with respect to booking.
But you don't need it at that point before someone has made a decision even to inquire about seat price.
Senator, if we didn't get it at that point, we wouldn't be able to offer the discounts to some of our customers that they're entitled to with respect to seat purchases.
Well, apparently Delta is able to do it without this information. And the information may be required by law at some point, but not then. And that's the point of the questioning. Let me just point out for the record on the family seating rule. During the comment period, you were represented by the Industry Association, Airlines for America, which essentially was, I would say, equivocal. It called the rule a possible, quote, Trojan horse. Spirit, I understand, opposed the rule. United said that the family seating rule was, quote, needless overreach. So I would suggest respectfully that you are being dragged, kicking, if not screaming, into compliance with this basic standard, and I hope this rule will be implemented and issued, as I've mentioned, as quickly as possible. Mr. Klein, I think you've raised the elephant in the room, and Senator Marshall was asking about it to some extent, which is the lack of competition or the barriers to entry and to competition that exists right now. And I'm just going to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the problems that Spirit has faced in the access to hubs and other kinds of obstacles that you've encountered in trying to compete more fully against some of the legacy airlines.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the question and the ability to talk on this topic. So for a very long time, we've been dealing with the lack of access to certain airports, or when we do get some access, it is limited, and frequently we will be given gates, but they're maybe on far ends of the airport, which make it very difficult for us to provide a good guest experience, makes it very difficult for us to be able to operate efficiently and effectively. It raises our costs, which then, of course, makes it harder for us to be profitable. And without being profitable, we certainly can't grow. As it's very public right now, some of the dealings that we have by filing for Chapter 11 reorganization right now, and we're in this process today. One of the things that occurred as we came out of COVID was there is sort of a manufactured pilot shortage of sorts, where some of our legacy carrier competitors basically paid their most senior pilots to retire early. That in fact caused a pilot shortage in the industry, and then they turned around and went after and hired all of our pilots, a lot of our pilots, I should say. And these are pilots that are professionals, and they do a great job, and they do a phenomenal job every day. But when they're being offered a lot more money to go work for somebody else, then they go move to that. And it's not that they're offered a lot more money straight away. It's that they get poached, so to speak, with these statements that are very public today about some CEOs have said how they're gunning for us. They're trying to put us out of business. They just can't wait for that to happen. Look, it's a competitive industry, and we all know that. We joined this industry because it's competitive, and we're competitive by nature. But some of the rules of the game have really changed, especially coming out of COVID, and it's made it very difficult to compete. You've heard today, and there's been testimony on this, and other public hearings as well, about how other airlines they really like the model that we've created, but they've also created rules and barriers around how they get to control the game, and the rules can change whenever they want them. And we're trying to play the game, and we do our best to play the game. And it's been difficult at times, and certainly in the last couple of years, it's been very difficult. If I may add one more thing, is we were in a merger situation that was ultimately challenged by the Department of Justice, and then we lost that case. And that prevented us from really reacting and being able to do a lot of things for a couple of years. Now we're trying to improve our guest experience. I appreciate today's hearing, and I appreciate all of the abilities to ask these questions, because transparency is critical. If the guest or the public doesn't have trust, then what do we have? So we do agree with transparency. We do agree with all of that, and we do agree with enhanced guest experience. Everything in this industry is about supply and demand. It's a very powerful driver of price. It is, in fact, the most powerful driver of price is supply and demand. If our supply is reduced or lessened, then prices go up. And that's the last thing that we want to see for the American public. We believe that having a vibrant, healthy, fair system is the best way to move forward. And that includes access to slots as well at very important airports.
You know, you mentioned the hub difficulty, and I think everybody in this room understands what you mean by that term and the difficulty of access. Essentially, when the gates are blocked and there are no takeoff or landing slots at those hubs, Atlanta, Chicago, some of the busiest and most popular airports, you are blocked from competing. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is fair to say. In terms of being able to have enough critical mass, having one gate or two gates allows for some access, but in order to have critical mass and truly be able to compete for the general public in those cities is very difficult if you don't have enough critical mass.
And I think there's been some mention about the use of frequent flyer programs and co-branded credit card agreements. That's another source of squelching competition, is it not?
The credit card programs, I believe, are successful in achieving the goals of what the airlines want, which is to create even more loyalty to those airlines. But it really starts with the dominance in certain cities. If there was more competition in those large cities, then those credit card programs would not be quite as effective, because then there'd be a lot more choice for the customers in those cities to choose who do they really want to fly with, or do they feel locked in to who they must fly with.
And the practical consequence to consumers is that, take fees. The major airlines have the power to march lockstep in a parallel way. Parallel pricing is a established antitrust term. On February 20th, 2024, American raised its domestic first check bag fee by $5. That's correct, Mr. Johnson, isn't it?
That's correct, Senator.
Then, Mr. Nocella, isn't it true that United raised its domestic first check bag by the same amount within days of America's announcement?
I believe it is true.
In fact, it raised it on February 23rd, just 3 days later. And then, Mr. Carter, Delta raised its domestic first check bag within 2 weeks of American and United increases, correct?
I believe that's correct.
So this is the reason why we've asked for the Department of Transportation, in the letter that we've made a part of the record today, to look into some of these practices, because this kind of anti-competitive conduct, or the symptoms and evidence of it, I think requires a deeper look. Let me ask, just for the record, Mr. Schroeder, will you commit to ending this bag bounty program, or I'll call it, in your terms, an incentive payment program? Will you commit to ending it?
Again, I wouldn't characterize it as a bounty program. It's not something I'm able to commit to. Again, we review all opportunities to make the customer experience better. We're in the business of attracting our customers back. As somebody who has a background in marketing and has gone through that, it's a lot cheaper to keep the customer you have than go get new ones. And so this is about creating a fair and equitable scenario for all of our customers. We will continue to review what's the best way to do that. But right now,
Well,
that's what we
the
have.
most important part of your answer just now is no. You won't commit to ending it. And the reason I'm asking is that, you know, there is a history here, which is that the practices and tactics that begin with Frontier or Spirit are then mimicked by the legacy airlines. You have been at the vanguard of low-cost airlines and the charging of fees to make up for the lower cost of the basic fares, and that kind of business model has been mimicked or followed by the legacy airlines. And so a tactic like this one is important, not just for Frontier, but for the industry in general. And that's why I'm going to ask every one of the witnesses here today, will you commit on behalf of your companies not to adopt this payment incentive program? We'll use your terms. Mr. Johnson.
Absolutely, Senator.
Mr. Carter.
Senator, it's not a business practice we would ever endorse.
Mr. Nocella.
We also agree it's also very inconsistent with our brand. We will not do it.
Let me point out that we've been talking about the consolidation within the industry that has enabled 4 airlines. Southwest is not here today because they don't charge these fees, or they haven't until now. There's some talk about their beginning to charge seat assignment fees, but that's the reason they weren't included in the investigation. But those 4 airlines control 70% of the market. And that's the reason, or that's the result of airline consolidation beginning in 2008. Delta merged with Northwest. United merged with Continental. Southwest acquired Air Trans. American merged with U.S. Airways. Alaska Airlines has acquired Virgin America. I opposed a number of these mergers and acquisitions. The Department of Justice went to court against the recent proposed merger of Spirit and JetBlue. But the horse was out of the barn by that point. And so I think that we have work to do in this area, and I hope the Department of Transportation will begin it. You've been very patient. I appreciate your being here today. We wanted your CEOs to be here, as you know, but I'm glad we had you here today and that we had this hearing. I hope that you will take back to your CEOs, I think, the message that is pretty clear here, which is there's a bipartisan demand for changes in the way you do business on these junk fees. You don't like to call them junk fees, but that's what they are. And I think the bipartisan tenor of today's hearing speaks very loudly to this point. I just want to close with a couple of questions on what we've referred to generally as algorithms or artificial intelligence, which again is a trend in the industry, which I think poses some dangers, notwithstanding your reassurances, Mr. Klein. I want to ask Mr. Carter, 2 weeks ago during Delta's Investor Day, the president of Delta Airlines gave a presentation about how the airline was planning to use AI to set, and I'm quoting, granular pricing, end quote, that was, quote, responsive to customer signals, end quote. The end result of AI-powered targeted pricing is that customers may soon confront a world where every person is charged a different price for every product every time they look at an airline's website. This optimization may work to Delta's benefit, but I can't imagine that most travelers would welcome it. It would be confusing, conflicting, inconsistent, and potentially anti-competitive. Is it fair if 2 customers searching for the same flight at exactly the same time are charged different prices?
Senator, let me tell you that I was at Investor Day and recall the comment, and our use of AI is incredibly small. We are just trying to understand AI's application. As you know, AI is talked about every day, everywhere, all the time, and we thought it was incumbent upon us to at least try and test. And I would say it's a lab. It's very isolated. It's a tiny percentage. It's 1%.
Well, it's tiny right now as we sit here at about noon on December 4th. It's tiny, but it could explode over the next 6 months. And I think that the question to you is whether it is fair for two customers going to your website at exactly the same time for the same flight, being charged different prices based on their zip code, their gender, their other characteristics.
Senator, I think you're making an assumption about what AI would be used for, when I can tell you that that's certainly not the conclusion that we have come to date. I think the way, again, these are the earliest stages, and this is just early learnings. We have so much to learn about AI. We all do, I think, as a country. But it's more about the right offer at the right time, as opposed to
Well, I'm
1,000
asking you the
different offers
question
to 1,000
about
different people.
exactly the same time. And it may be an unfair question to Delta only because you're exceptional in not asking for that information before someone decides to buy a ticket from you. But I'm asking you the question, which I think is not just a hypothetical, it's very real, because that's the direction that the airlines are going, using AI to charge different fees and different fares, depending on the personal information they get from you before you even decide to buy that ticket.
I would say to you, Senator, because of our commitment to our customers and our desire to be the airline of choice by our customers, and the desire to have loyalty from our customers, I can't conceive of, we all don't know how AI will be used, but I can't conceive of Delta using AI the way you've described. But I have to emphasize, we're just learning. We don't really know what we don't even know about AI today.
Well, that's the frightening part of the direction that the airlines are going. Truly, the terrifying part from a consumer standpoint.
I can assure you that our focus is efficiency, and I can assure you that to the extent Delta uses AI, it's in a responsible manner, Senator.
Let me ask you, Mr. Johnson, during American's earnings call last month, American's CEO said that the airline will soon, quote, put an AI lens to everything we do. Everything we do, an AI lens. Now, as we know, in its worst form, AI could be used to determine which passengers are traveling for weddings, funerals, family emergencies. They have no choice but to take your airline, and they'll pay anything to be on that flight. Airlines could use these tools to exploit passengers' worst moments, or best, to pad their profits. Can you commit that American will never use AI to exploit passengers who are traveling for a family emergency or even a funeral? You will commit to it. Can you commit to never using this personal information to set different fares or fees for different passengers at the same time for the same flight?
Senator, it's fascinating that you bring this up, because it's such an important topic. It's pretty easy to immediately think about the issues with AI, the things that can go wrong, the things that won't be consumer friendly. But AI is potentially a fabulous computational and automation tool that can be used in many, many really extraordinary ways. For instance, our dabbling with AI in the early stages is focused on trying to run our operation better. We operate, 6,000 flights using 1,700 aircraft, 365 days of the year. It's a really, really complicated exercise.